everybody can have their hands on. It's this one unique identifier. So whoever gets access to it, that's it. So if someone chooses to sell it years from now, they're selling it on the principal point that, hey, when I sell this, I can only sell it to one person, this unique identifier. You know what I'm saying? So if it's a record that was never released by your favorite rapper, any one person is going to want to get their hands on that particular record. If it was a record that was released by, let's say, some unknown rapper today, and then 20 years from now they do blow up, you're going to want to get your hands on that record because you're going to be celebrated as that one person who has that one item that no one else can get. Same thing if it comes around to graphical art. If some person who's okay as an artist today dies 5 years from now and all of a sudden they become celebrated, again, it's the same principle, unique aspect. You have something that no one else is going to get their hands on because of that unique identifier, that digital print. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing that they used to tell artists with regards to websites. Yo, instead of selling all your music on streaming services, put some of your music up on websites that won't be released through streaming services. People will want to buy simply on the fact that they know they can't get it anywhere else. Well, they'd be like, well, what about pirating? Like, yeah, people will attempt to do that. You can't control that marketplace. But at the end of the day, you got to hope that your fan base is strong enough to apply into the conversation where they'll still spend with you regardless of what someone else is doing. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah, it does. However, it's if I buy an NFT from, and it still doesn't really answer the question of if I buy an NFT today and 10 year, 5 years later, unfortunately the artist passes away, and yeah, it's one of one, but who's gonna want to buy it? That's really that question hasn't really been answered for me. It's
That
so what is one
that
of one?
that
No
situation is
one wants
tricky.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. That whole aspect of who's gonna buy or why would they want to buy, I mean, it's consumerism. It's a matter of saying, does it interest them? And a lot of instances when it comes to consumerism, all it comes down to is saying the right person is interested. If the one right person is interested, other people are going to flock to that conversation just because they see Joe Smo is interested. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, again, with that 7-year-old girl who made these drawings and turned them into NFTs. No one knew who this girl was specifically. She wasn't famous by any means. She just had something that created an interest. And because it created an interest, a whole bunch of people wanted to purchase it. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference between art in the physical sense than it is in the digital sense with regards to music. Now, these things that are made physical are being translated into digital items. I mean, think about it this way. If you saw a Monet painting before you knew who Monet was, and you just said, this painting is incredible, I want it just because you felt something from it. That's all that matters. The feeling you gained from it. You know what I'm saying? If a million people get a similar feeling to you, a million people are going to want to buy it. Doesn't make a difference how famous this particular person is. It is quite literally the emotional attachment that you have to the product that's presented in front of you. That's how we sell. Same with music. When you sell music, if someone hears your song but doesn't know who you are, what's really being sold? Your brand or the sound? They're buying your music in that instance, not necessarily you. You come secondary in that case.
Not to sound like the devil's advocate or being a contrarian, but you're you're saying that you're assuming that the art is evoking some sort of emotion.
That's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to invoke emotion. That's what causes the sale aspect.
Yeah, true, but this is a question I'm asking. If someone goes into a production deal with me and
Mm.
they say, "Hey, want to do an NFT," or let's say we just propose that, I don't know how to make that make sense to someone who barely has two fans. Like, yeah, I get it. In the long run, cool. But in the indie market, we know a lot of artists that have been doing it 10, 15 years, and
Mm.
they still had never sold out a venue.
Very true. I mean, and again, those types of situations, when you're talking about bringing it to a boardroom saying, yo, this is what we want to get done, regardless of how large or how small, yes, it's going to be, for some people, I guess you could say a huge pill to swallow. Because it's going to be like you said, you have two fans. You just got into the conversation of what you want to do as a brand. Why do you feel like this is going to be the move that's going to take you off or put you on the map? So
Right.
yeah, that definitely can be a hard conversation for any one particular artist. But again, in the same sense of this young girl who's 7 years old, who's not an artist in the sense of music, she took a chance. And that's realistically what it comes down to. At any given point in time, you have to consider product market fit, the PMF of the situation. Is what you're creating going to change the market in some capacity, or is it going to fit within a market space that becomes sellable? People look at this and say, hey, we like this because it's similar to, or it associates this, or it creates this particular feeling. I mean, at the end of the day, any form of product being sold, regardless if it's a one person entity just coming in the game or a large corporation who's been doing it for 20 years and saying, yeah, we're going to run this new marketing tactic, there's always going to be a chance to fail. You know what I'm saying? And I can't sit here and tell you no more than anyone else can tell you, yeah, this one person who has one fan is going to succeed if they draw this particular miraculous picture of Goku and turn it into an NFT. There's no guarantee that it's going to work. It's just a matter of saying, do we take the chance or not? Is this a viable market based on what we're seeing happen? Just like stocks, new company goes public. Hey, here's the IPO. Do we take the chance? Or do we not take the chance? Short term to long term investment.
Yeah, but you're asking you basically, but in this case, okay, so I see what you're saying. So instead of investing in the IPO, you're asking your fans to invest in your brand.
Mm-hmm. Because that's basically what it is. I mean, no matter how we cut the situation, regardless of if it's a T-shirt, an NFT, or an album,
Okay.
when you start finding people and saying, "I want you to buy something," it's principally all the same. The only thing you've changed is the product that's being sold, but the concept is the same.
Okay. So is that the case, then I won't be so harsh on NFTs. And again, the reason why is because uh, that's funny. Trevor actually just called me. Um, I'll text him back. But that's so if that's the case, if that's where we're going with it, then cool. All right, I guess you give your fans a chance to make money off of you.
Think about it this way: if you're in an overly saturated market, how do you create a unique selling point? How do
Mm-hmm.
you create a fear of loss? How do you create something that is so unique, so specified, so hard to adopt that if you don't get it in this moment, you know for a fact that you are not going to likely get a chance to do it later? And people say, well, that sounds like an oxymoron because you said a fact and like. The truth is, 9 times out of 10, it is highly unlikely that you're going to get it again. And the factual point is, once somebody buys it, it is their choice to say if it's ever going to be sold again. For all we know, the particular thing that they're buying may turn into a family heirloom, passed down. Who knows? But the principal idea is they're saying, hey, this NFT, this thing that has a unique identifier, in which case it can't be copied. We know this is specifically this one product.
Right.
We're going to sell this. People are going to be interested in this. We know for a fact people are going to be interested. Who they're going to be interested in is not the issue. The issue is we know they're going to be interested in this because it is a fear of loss. Marketing 101.
Got you.
Now,
Scarcity.
that fear of loss, we're going to sell to that point. Now, when we sell these 2 points, fear of loss, because it's the only one, unique identifier, it's the only one, a one-to-one situation, it's just a matter of who's going to sign up to buy, who's going to line up, who really wants
Okay.
it.
That's so. So this is just another way. Trevor said, "What's up?" So I guess
Yo,
this is just. I'm sorry, T Piper. Got to use his moniker. So I guess instead of doing a GoFundMe, because that was the thing, I never got like the whole GoFundMe thing. Is like, so how's it really
mm,
benefiting your fans? And a lot of stuff was just like, hey, if you give $500, you get a T-shirt and a ticket to your show. It's like, I want no funky ass T-shirt. $500. That's all I get. So but then again,
yeah,
Nipsey
that's
sold a one
experience
hundred
though.
dollar mixtape, but also it came with
Yeah.
tickets and his signature and a T-shirt plus a physical copy. So it's like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, that's worth $100. So
Right.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I
but you got
could,
to think about it though. Indie artists don't have that opportunity to say they can do what Nip did, so they have to kind of work it as best possible. Especially when you talk about rock bands. Rock bands spend way much more money than we do from a hip hop standpoint on average on an indie level getting a project produced. So you're talking about them saying, yeah, you give me $500, I'll send you a T-shirt. And a lot of instances, a lot of them are saying, I'm gonna give you what I got, and then everything else I'm gonna give you on these records.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's them trying to draw that connection. It's not really the shirt that they're selling. It's the connection that they're trying to get you to buy into. You're truly helping me push this album. So you should feel like you're a part of this, because every dollar you give to this basically says, hey, you help produce this song. You help produce this record. Excuse me.
Got you. Okay. Then if that's because I won't be so harsh on it, because again when I first I was like I don't think it's gonna be really be beneficial, but if you explain it that way, then yeah, then that makes sense. It just I can see someone running the jug of trying to get over on the fans. It's just like, yeah, you made money, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
And again, we're at the beginning stages of it, so cool.
true. I can tell you, even from a standpoint of psychology, when you think about we think about voice and tonality. If you hear a rapper who has this incredible tone in his voice, before you even understand what he's saying, you've all of a sudden become captivated by the tone. Rather if it be the highs, the lows, the way it's said, the swagger, just overall, you're captivated by the concept of how it sounds before you are captivated by what is said. Versus someone who's monotone or flat, instantly you're gonna focus on what they're saying because you're like, bro, I can't stand your voice. I hope to God you got bars. You know what I'm saying? That's the same connection that's being created by default. Because you got to think about it. Don't think about this as an artist. Think about this as a fan. And that's where we always have to create that separation. We have to remember fan first, creative second. That's how you have to treat the business. Because if you treat the business as an artist first, you're focusing on the creation. If you treat it in the aspect of a fan, you're thinking about the connection. And when we sell things in regards to business, we're not just thinking about what's being created. We're thinking about how are you going to connect to what's being created. It's no different than listening to a Disney record. You can go watch that movie in Encanto, and I promise you, by the time you get done, you're gonna watch it a second time and know every one of the songs. Simply because when you hear it, you're instantly gonna connect to it. You're psychologically instantly gonna be tuned in. It's a rarity that they have a movie that does not blow up, you know what I'm saying, on principle of how people connect to the music, regardless of what's being said. The production, the tonal value, who's singing, everything is psychologically designed to suck you in. And that's the same thing that they do with Fear of Loss, with the idea of a unique identifier. Their goal is to suck you in to the connection, to the concept of this is something that's cool. Think about how many major artists are doing this right now as a way to make money, simply because they know they can sell it. They know they can make it happen and make it move for millions of dollars because, oh, it's the White Stripes. They do this. Oh, okay. Somebody's going to buy it because it's the White Stripes. You know what I'm saying? They already have that psychological marker, that adoption between fans who are regular individuals with money and fans who are people with real deal money. So they don't have to worry about if it's going to sell. They know the connection there. And that's what matters. When artists are trying to take off to that next level, to that top 40 Billboard charts, they got to understand it's not just about your record, it's about the connection between the fans and your record. Every documentary you watch will literally have the same fan, same somebody somewhere, different face, basically saying the same thing. Man, your records changed my life. Your songs helped me through a tough time. I thought I was going to go through this, and then I heard your music and it completely turned my life upside down. It saved my such and such every time because it's the psychological behavior of connection. That's what we do in the sales aspect. We are selling you the belief system, the connection. This is going to do this for you. This is going to change your energy. If it does this, you'll put any amount of money in it because society tells you anything that brings you positive energy is worth your time and money. You dig what I'm saying?
I did not expect him to go off and drop so many bars. So I'm just gonna shut up and just let him talk because y'all thought I knew a lot. Yeah, you got that one. You got that one, buddy. So we can check that one off. Um, what else is up? What else? I guess we could talk about the Grammys relocating. I'll be honest with you, that's not surprising because Fleeta Hicks, who I worked on a spoken word album, we turned it in for. First of all right, let me get some shit off my chest because I can well, let me respectively get some shit off my chest. All right, so I'm trying to find a PC way of saying this, so I'll just say it like this. I would like for these organizations
Mm,
that are that have a huge platform that
mm,
a lot of entities respect to just work a little bit harder in defining urban genres. That's it. Because I was trying to figure out while we were campaigning to get
mm,
votes. Um, we did a for your consideration campaign because we were going for a spoken word album of the year,
mm.
and it was looking really good. But then we found out that Obama audiobook, a podcast featuring Dave Chappelle along with Jay
Oh wow.
Ivy, who's another spoken word artist, and someone else, were all going
Mm,
for the same spot. And I just remember the look on me, Chris, and Felita Hicks' face going,
yeah.
I know we better not losing no damn audiobook by Obama. And sure enough, came the announcement. I'm sitting there looking like, Jay Ivy better win. That's all I gotta say. If Jay Ivy doesn't win, I'm gonna be sort of perturbed. And I know that they're working to fix the category. I understand, but
Mm.
I was a bit I was a bit upset.
Yeah, but them situations is tricky. It's kind of like, let's say you a fish, you a fish, and you like, man, this is my day to take off into the ocean. I'm leaving the school. Then all of a sudden, on your first day out, you swim into the middle. You know what I'm saying? On some Finding Nemo, I see the boat
Yeah,
or the butt, so to speak. But all of a sudden, you get captured because there's this giant motherfucker. Excuse my French. This giant individual. You know what I'm saying? Out here, like, yo,
yeah,
I need y'all little fishes, and
and
that's what it is. Name like Obama, like, ugh.
and if you want to start saying audiobooks or spoken word albums, okay. I didn't make the award. I didn't make the category. The rules are the rules. That's fine. But I was like, so, that'll be my piece. I'm pretty sure either my publicist or Fleeta will call me tomorrow and tell me that that was not PC. But it's my platform. I can say what I want to say.
When it's yours, it's yours.
But anyway, so I seen all the Facebook groups. I've seen all the tweets and everything else. Everyone wanted to know, like, yo, is the Grammys canceled and they've been postponed even further, and they're
Mhm.
relocating to Las Vegas. Um, Thoughts?
I mean, I'll be all the way honest with you. California is going through a tough time right now, so I'm like, it might just be a better market space for them to be in Vegas right now. You know what I'm saying? With everything going on.
Yeah,
Now, to say if it's going to actually stay there going forward, that's a whole different conversation. But I mean, the temporary move, considering all the circumstances that they're dealing with, I mean, COVID aside, I mean, it's just a matter of just being sensible. You know what I'm saying? What's going to actually get this thing done? If they're like, we can't get it done in our traditional market space right now, but we know it needs to happen, well, here we go for a brief moment.
here's
Still
my
a large
thing.
market space, though.
Here's my thing. We can't do this digitally. Like, just have the performers do
That
their thing and have everyone just stay home. Why is it so important that everyone is at the venue?
So I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's just kind of like, actually, this is a bad thing that's happening in the gaming industry right now. Kind of similar to what that happened in music and movies. So when music transitioned to streaming and CDs went away, all of a sudden there's an adjustment in the money. People who are getting 10 cents on a record per sale on that 109, who was like, yeah, we getting money. It ain't all the way through, but we still getting money. All of a sudden now it becomes hay pennies, percentages. Now, the circumstance between them and movies figured out how to kind of move around that situation and still keep DVDs alive. Now, the same situation with the gaming industry. The gaming industry, when they were doing E3, COVID comes through and it's like, okay, we're going to try to do this physically. Nah, it ain't going to work. Okay, so we try to do it digitally. The digital was cool, but following year, all right, E3, we're going to do it digitally again. We're going to try it again. Now, this year, there's no E3 as a whole. The circumstance behind the digital market is instead of it being, oh, yeah, one large scale production, one large scale show, again, we're losing the experience. We're losing the network value. We're losing the money who's coming out to spend. We're losing the opportunity of people saying, yeah, I'm about to go buy the Da Vinci dress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All that money that gets put into these productions that isn't necessarily talked about, you know what I'm saying, is going to start disappearing. And that's
No,
where they
I
start running
it,
into issues.
and I figured that's what it was. I just want them to say
Oh, that's not going to happen.
it.
Let's be all the way honest here.
I just want
No one talks about the money disappearing
I,
until the money's gone. They ain't got no
yeah,
choice to talk about
like I just like just be honest with me. Like, okay,
Think about it this way: who in music was saying, "Hey, bro, listen, we're gonna lose all this money," before they realized they was about to lose all this money, and I mean
venues.
publicly. People was talking about it in the industry, but who was saying it to the fans publicly? You know what I'm saying? When stuff first started to transition over. You know what I'm saying? The only people you had really complaining was the artist because of the contracts. There wasn't no labels out here hollering about, yeah, bring CDs back. Sony was, I mean, no disrespect, but Sony, Universal, Republic wasn't no label out here publicly saying, yes, we definitely need CDs to come back. It started with artists. It started with the person who is at the top and simultaneously at the bottom. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? When you
yeah.
consider the contract aspect, labels still found a way to win. Why? Because they own the catalogs. So they could run the concept of what that payout value was going to be, dealing with a blanket license, dealing directly with the streaming services, bypassing the PRO in that sense. You know what I'm saying?
They
So,
did a little bit more than that. They did a
oh no,
lot more
most
than that.
definitely. Most
They did a
definitely. But
lot
what I'm
more than that.
saying
But yeah,
is, oh no, I'm not saying it didn't. What I'm saying is we just got to consider who's going to win. At the end of the day, they're going to find a way. You know what I'm saying? And that's the situation that we're dealing with COVID with regard to these venues. They're not trying to lose the circumstance of the money that's coming in. Because once those events stop, the question becomes how long is it until these venues start closing down? And once we start losing these venues, what happens next?
so that kind of there was a last I think it was episode 17. I think it's the one that got cut short. But I dived into how Brooklyn Bowl is now they're diversifying to where now uh you know, it's always been like you have a bowling alley, bar, and this and the third, and now more venues are looking to
Mm-hmm.
do that. So like back in Houston, Warehouse Live. So now imagine seeing an act, but also at the same time, like it's a regular bar happening, but then you know they may have beer pong and this and the third, and so because you can go do these things, you can now see an act, and now they get taxed more at the door or taxed more on the drinks and everything else. It just I found I'm discovering that the venues are doing a lot more in developing their own ecosystem, which if I'm thinking about this correctly, if the venues are doing that, who's to say that a Live Nation, like they haven't done it already, doesn't partner with a lot more of these venues and buy them out, and instead of just partnering, just buy them out, and now all these hole in the wall clubs or smaller venues you can do a tour with. Like I've always been suspicious why a company as large as Live Nation, who brings in what is it, like 3 billion or plus more dollars a year, like how is it 3 billion? I think it's close to something like that. And it's like, why don't you just buy a whole bunch of smaller venues and call it a day? Like if you're if you are, if I'm Columbia and I do a deal with Live Nation, I would
Mm-hmm.
just partner with them in regards to buying smaller venues and just have an artist do a tour on the smaller venues and develop them until they get into the arena. Like I know someone has pitched this idea and they're logistically trying to make it work. That makes sense. So you can you can have different tiers because it to me, it makes sense. So I know if I'm thinking about it, someone's definitely working on it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I'm not watching 2 years. We all of a sudden have Live Nation bars just because you said that.
If I, you know, it's a couple of YouTubers that said some things back in like 2017, 18 that I'm seeing like the big dogs doing. Just like I know where you get
Mm-hmm.
that idea from. Uh, it's a few, so I know like they're they'll watch. I
People
don't
be
know if
listening.
they're watching mine, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would
Yeah,
be
that makes
surprised.
sense. But I'll tell you, I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, what they're doing is not anything new. I mean, respectfully, bars have been in situations, especially in different genres, in position of saying, "Hey, this is a performance house for generations." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It just it kind of switched off from a hip hop standpoint. Like hitting the bars wasn't necessarily the thing that rappers were doing so much as opposed to a country band or a rock band. You know what I'm saying? You a rapper, you like, yo, I'm not going to the bar, I'm going to the club or I'm going to the strip club.
right.
I'm going to things that generally play hip hop and associate with the concept of hip hop. That's where I'm performing. You deal with rock music or country music, a lot of those cats were in the dive bars. You know what I'm saying? That was just the market. Now, it also can depend on how large your market is. If you're in a smaller market, dive bars is all you got. That's what you're going to do. You know what I'm
But
saying? So, I
that
mean,
can
there's a
work
lot of
though.
varying factors.
But
True,
if I'm a bluegrass singer and
right?
I could do a dive bar. Like that's how my brain's thinking. If I would just do a dive bar tour, like
Right.
that's kind of like what
They
Post
do that.
Malone did.
Right. I mean, they still do that. I mean, that's the thing. It's a matter of genre and a matter of association to that genre. Again, it's no different than a rapper. A rapper is going to do a 20 city tour and they're going to try to hit all the available clubs and or venues that associate the clubs they can. If you can't get in the club whatever in this particular city, but you
Yeah,
can get into the venue down the street, you basically going to be trying to hit up everybody at the club to basically catch you at your show the following night, the next week, whatever. You just going to basically be congregating around the area trying to pick up heads. You know what I'm saying? So that type of stuff is already done. The problem in that situation is, are you actually getting paid on the back end from royalties? Or when you perform, is that venue you dealing with actually paying that blanket license? You know what I'm saying? That's where a lot of cats hit.
I'm glad you said that because one day we'll talk about how hip hop artists have to pay higher premium, higher insurance for these venues and like a rock or a pop artist. Like I vividly remember doing that while I was touring. It's just like I know for a fact you're not charging this for these rock bands, but
Nah,
whatever.
the unfortunate side to that is, and this is why we need subgenres, because when you say hip hop, a lot of people who hear the word hip hop or rap more specifically, well, especially in clubs, will all of a sudden assume gangster rap music or assume that there's a potential chance of an incident going on because it's going to be more of an urban crowd. And even if the artist isn't necessarily of that type of caliber, that type of audience, there's always a chance that somebody might pop in and start a situation, in which case that creates a liability for the club.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know what I'm saying, when you deal with rock music and other genres, a fight may break out, but that can easily be quelled down and things keep moving. Where somebody bring out that, hey, say that 22, that
Two
situation
twenty
ain't exactly
twos.
going right. That ain't going too easy. That ain't one of those. All right, yeah, we kicked them out. Let's keep partying. No, that's not happening. So it's an unfortunate circumstance that we're dealing with regards to our counterparts.
We'll,
But
we'll
had we had subgenres, it would be a lot easier to manage.
we'll get into it one day. We'll get into it one day. Yeah. Oh, shout out to Mac Miller. Rest in peace. Mac Miller's birthday was
Yes,
yesterday.
sir.
Yeah, man. Eden, who I talked to on Twitter a lot and Instagram, who produced and engineered for Wiz Khalifa as well as Mac and that whole Pittsburgh scene they were talking about just how how much he was loved and how artistically he was way ahead of where we are now. And it's just real sad to see it that's the sad part is hearing the genius that we didn't get to see. And I don't mean
Right.
like the stuff that's out, but the people that were close to him. He had all these ideas that were unfinished. Cause they really say, am I saying it right? Post mortem album. Am I
Mm.
saying it right? Um, so it's unfortunate, man. I don't even know if that's even
Mm.
like a mental health thing. I think it's more of a vice thing. So It
The
is what
industry
it
is
is.
dangerous. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I mean, throughout history, there have been a lot of incredible people, incredibly gifted mental people when it comes to art who just didn't make it in the long term. I mean, as they say, there's that thin line between genius and insanity. You know what I'm saying? You never really know what a person's going through because we see the money, we see the opportunities, we see the life that they have, but we don't truly understand the life that they live, the
Exactly.
stress, the vice, the things that are surrounded around their life. That's even like I was watching a documentary on Kid Cudi, and it's like as he was expressing the situation where he was like, "Man, this is when I was on cocaine." He's like, majority of the people didn't even know I was on cocaine. It took to a situation where he was arrested to where he's like, this is where I'm going to stop. But then at the same time, people became aware. Oh, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, he had people around him who were close to the situation who were aware of certain circumstances. But as he explained it, even them wasn't necessarily aware of how deep in he was in that
See,
situation.
I don't ever
You know what I'm
buy
saying? So
that.
you'd be surprised.
I don't ever buy that because this is who you hanging with every day. You mean to tell me none of those people saw?
Think about it this way. Someone might see you doing it. They may be aware of your actions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're aware of how far gone you are. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the trick of the situation comes in. Because I'm like, man, think about it this way. You got people who are married, you know what I'm saying, married 20, 30 years, and somebody got a whole side family that they never knew.
Yeah,
And
but there's a
quite literally,
okay. If you're ever touring, see, here's the thing: if you ever toured, you get extremely close with the people around. You're
right?
with each other all the time. You mean to tell me after all that touring and being around like fam, it's the question now that it begs the question of did they were they really just not aware you that good with it, or were they also aiding and participating just trying to protect them? Like, come on, man,
And
we
that
grown,
becomes
we can
that
ask
becomes
these
the question.
questions.
Yeah, true. I mean, but you got if we play devil's advocate, we can honestly say in some instances, some people may very well be that good. I mean, that's the whole concept of being a villain versus the bad guy. You know what I'm saying? And in some instances, some people are just like you said, enabling. They don't want to believe that they're that far gone because they're with them doing the situation, thinking, nah, they're cool. They at the edge of the bridge, but they'll pull back. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to say in those situations.
I guess it is what it is, man. All right, let's get into some stuff. Let's get into some stuff. Um, all right, so Theo, you're gonna take the lead on this one. Now, iHeartMedia plans to expand into the metaverse. I'll just read the top line. In recent months, Facebook
Mm.
parent company Meta has indicated that it will be spending 50 million on a metaverse project. Stop right there. All right, so I actually want to address this number. Um, why does 50 million sound very low to me?
I mean, respectfully, when you consider how everybody else is spending money and how many, I guess you could say how they're throwing money at the solution of trying to figure out how they can bring everybody into one literal ecosystem, but from a circumstance of truly interacting, it is a low number. I mean, it's a big number. I like that number. I wish I had that number in my pocket. But I
Right.
mean, but with regards to what they're trying to do, yeah, it's low in the beginning. But I mean, at the same time, that could just be a test pilot just to kind of figure out what direction they want to go with this. And at the same time, seeing how everybody else is building out their platforms and then kind of taking from there. Okay, we threw this to see how this worked. We saw Facebook do this. We saw Apple do this. Even Walmart's getting into the conversation. Don't know how that's going to work, but we saw Walmart do this.
No,
Now we're
actually,
going to throw X, Y, and Z.
actually, that makes a lot of sense. What's the difference between? Okay, have you ever ordered groceries before?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay, have you ever ordered some fruit or something, and it wasn't quite what you thought it was? You're like, this isn't what this isn't what I ordered, and
Right.
then you had to go back and like, actually, this is. You just couldn't have a visual representation.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine them having a camera where they can go down the aisles, right,
Mm-hmm.
and record all this information almost in real time, and you could be at home ordering groceries in real time and have it delivered to you just like you were there. Like, yeah, Walmart makes perfect sense because now your storefront you can have a even bigger warehouse. You
Mm-hmm.
become like the old Sean. Now you can sell pets, you can sell school clothes. You can sell guns. You can sell fertilizer. You can be everything
Wait a
all
minute.
in one.
Walmart selling guns again would be interesting.
Not really.
No, I mean you consider they stopped that market space, but I mean it was easily accessible to pop into a Walmart. Let me go get my groceries and also let me pick up that shotgun. Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
out the door.
yeah, yeah. Walmart makes sense, but for iHeartRadio, it's not making too much sense. Like, are you talking about like concerts? And that's the thing. Like, I know Justin Bieber did a concert in the Metaverse, and a couple other people, and I know you can watch NBA games. However,
Hmm.
I don't think it hits the same for concerts unless I'm too old school.
I mean, again, I guess it just depends on what you want to do with regards to the experience. I mean, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that you can't do in a live concert, like you physically being there, that you can do digital. You know what I'm saying? With regards to information and just how it happens, like what they did with the whole Pokemon joint with Post Malone. It's like you're not gonna, as well as our technology stands right now, what they did in that virtual concert, you're not gonna do in real time. At least not right now. Nothing I've heard of, anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on what you want to experience.
Yeah, but if I'm at an EDM concert, unless I can see the guy next to me rolling, on a Molly, it's just not the same.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you very well could be in that space virtually. I mean, let's think about how they do like with silent discos. They sold silent discos and everybody got headphones on, but everybody's still partying. You getting twerked on, she got headphones, you got headphones. Everybody listening to the same music, but don't nobody know you in the party.
You can't
Same
you
principle in
can't
this case.
you can get twerked on in the metaverse, but it's not the same.
Well, it's not the same until they create those inhibitors where you can actually feel the physical motions. You know what I'm
That's gonna be
saying? Once you
scary.
are, yeah, because I'm like, because I'm telling you, there's animes out right now based on these principles. Like I got to look at the title. I just started watching a new one today, where basically the young lady is sitting, what you call in a hospital bed. She's basically everything but a vegetable at this point.
Hmm.
And basically, in this very first episode, they basically say yes. So basically, she wakes up in this digital world because the power in the hospital cuts out. She was basically virtual. She was playing this game virtually, and her mind basically wandered into the game permanently because of the power outage. But in the sense of this, she can feel every sensation as if it was her real life. So when she wakes up, she's like, "Wait, my legs are moving. That's a thing. What's going on here?" When she realizes where she is, she all of a sudden starts eating, and she's like, "Oh, that tastes amazing. I haven't had food like this in years," because she was so used to doing IV drips, pills, etc.
Right.
So once we get to a point where you can actually have physical sensation, or I guess you could say digitally imaged physical sensation, like what they're basically telling you is real on some Matrix type situation, then that changes the game completely. Because I mean, it's no different than Ready Player One at that point. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I
In
still
Ready
haven't
Player
seen that
One,
movie.
oh my God,
I still
bro!
haven't seen
If
that
you
movie.
watch Ready Player One, the metaverse will make perfect sense.
I mean, it already makes sense. It's just that, yeah, I'll probably watch it on the
Now,
plane.
I'm telling you, watch Ready Player One because I mean, don't get me wrong, The Matrix is dope, and The Matrix is a good inference of what could happen. But Ready Player One is a realistic conversation of where we're currently heading with regards to what would be stage one of the actual metaverse, with regards to physical interfaces, because that's what it comes down to right now. We're in the arms race with regards to AR versus VR technology, which is going to take over. You have one side that says augmented reality is better because we don't want to be fully interfaced. We want to interface technology in real time versus those who prefer VR, where it's like, yeah, real life is great, but I want to be fully submerged in a situation and do things that I couldn't naturally do in real time. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're dealing with regards to the metaverse. Which direction is this going to take? Which is going to be the most circumstantial, most viable market space? No different than what you said about Walmart with the cameras. You have to ask yourself at that point, if this person is walking down the aisle with cameras, or if this robotic device is going down the aisles, rather if it be a drone or something else, how do you want to basically manage your experience while this is happening? Do you want to basically be sitting at a computer screen or looking at your phone and then clicking? Or do you want to basically be laying down relaxed and have some form of shades on or some form of an interface that's basically attached to you where you can quite literally raise your hand, do, 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 and select it, but it's as natural as breathing to you. as opposed to holding a device in your hand and having to select on the device. Those are the conversations that we're having right now with regards to the direction, which is evasive, you know what I'm saying, which is okay.
Yeah, that's gonna be the evasive part. That kind of reminds me of the whole like cloning thing. You know, cloning is not legal in the
Mm,
United States, so it's kind of like that's it, and that kind of leads to what I was gonna ask about this later, which is what are the rules of metaverse? You know, I know they said on the Joe Budden podcast, it was just like, yo, if I kill somebody in the metaverse, is that a crime? And so, you know, of course you
I guess the
can't.
question is, if you kill somebody in the metaverse, do they actually die in real life? That
I
would
mean, not
create
right
the
now, no.
circumstance.
Like,
Right.
yeah, like it's not connected to your synapses or anything like that. But if we get to that point, because the thing is, see, this is opening up a deep dark rabbit hole that I said I wasn't gonna go down, but here we are. Um, because the question now becomes, so who gets to write the laws of the metaverse? Because if I'm let's say for
Mm,
instance, if I'm here and my cousin that's in India right now, if I wanted to, chill with him and anything else, and I'm in the metaverse and I'm in the metaverse environment, and we get into, me and him get into a bar fight with a couple of people, and I kill someone. Is it a crime in India? Is it a crime in America? Is it a crime in the metaverse? Like, who's writing these rules?
yeah.
That's a question I've always
So
asked: is who makes the rules, and when did we agree to them?
So you got to think about it this way: who holds jurisdiction over the internet? Technically, jurisdiction is made by country. So what I can do in the United States isn't what I can do in India, isn't what I can do in China, isn't necessarily what I can do in Europe. Western cultures easily are more influent, more loose, more relaxed when it comes to these aspects than our Eastern counterparts. So in that same situation, the first concept would be, okay, if this metaverse is created, the more than likely point is the powers that exist that control our current subspace is not going to allow this to just go completely free reign. More than likely, we're going to walk into a situation of, hey, government such and such says these things can or cannot happen based on such and such regulations. It's a matter of time because there, I mean, we say the internet is the wild, wild west. I mean, that's always the joke, but the reality is there are regulations and things we can or cannot do. If you do something, the law is going to come for you. So, in the same sense of of the metaverse, this is just a stage two aspect of what we're already existing.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time before the government looks at it from a regulatory standpoint and says, okay, you're in country such and such. Even if you're in this digital space, you're basically, let's say your server or your IP address, whatever, is being routed from here. You may be in such and such land where you're building your world space and you killed someone here, but they died in real time in real life here. So technically, you instantly, let's say you created a crime and you were in the United States. But you know what? We got this thing called the CIA. Well, so does country such and such. They have their own. So they're going to send someone over to come get you once they verify it was you who did it. I mean, we're not going to ever be in a situation where we can legitimately create a crime and say, yeah, I'm just going on a mass murder spree and people are dying in real life and it's just what it is and think that that's just going to stand. We
No,
might
I
get
don't.
away with,
I don't.
somebody might get away with it once.
I don't think it's gonna stand, but I think there's gonna be different metaverses. I
Yeah, oh,
think
there already is.
yeah. So I think Facebook have their own. I think Google's gonna have their own. I think Amazon's gonna have their own, and so on and so forth. So my question is, if I just in this instance, since we're doing this, if I kill someone in the Google metaverse and I jump over to the Facebook, can they still come get me?
I mean,
Because now,
that's
because
basically saying, yeah, in that situation, we would have to say that these companies have sovereignty. You know what I'm saying? From a political standpoint, because basically saying you're jumping from one digital space to another is basically saying that these spaces are unregulated. You know what I'm saying? That's like saying, yeah, I killed somebody in Facebook, but Facebook police can't go over to Google. Well, can Google extradite me back to Facebook? You know what I'm saying? Like, can they basically send me back? Well, the question becomes at that point, wait a minute, are these systems policing themselves or is there someone policing the system?
this is such
What,
a
how does it actually
weird
work?
ass conversation, bro. Like just the fact we even talking about it, this is such a weird ass conversation. But no, but if it comes to again, people always say Apple has more money than the U.S. government, and it's like, well, if you have more money than the Fed,
Mm,
right, then
mm.
who's to say Apple won't cut a check to pull some strings if they haven't already? Like, you try not to think like that, but
Yeah.
if we really want to get something passed, I mean, we have more money and resources than you.
That's tricky. That's tricky because I mean there is a conversation that says money will only go so far. I mean, because that's what they're dealing with right now with the whole federal situation with side loading applications. You go to these other countries, and these other countries, regardless of how much money you have, they're saying, "Yeah, we're going to vote on side loading, and we're going to let it happen." Now they're dealing with it in the U.S., and it basically is going to a vote in the Senate.
What
And
is side
regardless of the
loading?
money at this point, basically what you do on Android, basically saying, hey, I got Google and I got Amazon stores. I can download applications from Amazon that I normally wouldn't be able to access, as well as applications that are on the Google store if I have an Amazon device. So you know
Got
how
it.
when you get like a Kindle, for example, Kindle's imaged to Amazon. So you basically have to jailbreak it to get a Google App Store. But
Oh
on
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
load from various stores. You know what I'm saying? Especially Samsung. I can have a Samsung store as well as a Google Play store. But in that instance, I mean, of course, Google makes Android as an operating system, so it's in most instances, it's not really like you're going to tell them no, unless you're Amazon, in which case, you know how that goes. But Apple really, they don't really play with that conversation too well. And say with regards to privacy and security, understandably. I mean, it's a valid point. Once people start doing it, that conversation is going to come into play. Well, I caught this virus, or I had this malware, or someone stole my X, Y, and Z, and then it's going to be, well, blame Apple is basically what the conversation is going to be all over the news, because at the end of the day, we're human. We look for someone to point the finger to because we don't want to be for the blame,
Yeah,
regardless if we did the action or not. And that's what they're trying to avoid.
it's gonna be interesting.
Oh,
It's
most
it's
definitely.
definitely gonna be interesting. Okay, all right. Here's what it is. Okay. All right, you want to talk about this last thing? I'll be honest with you. I didn't really have much to say about the whole um, Apple Music streaming service. It's now number two.
Mm.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know why this is a big deal. Um, Keep it a buck with you.
Yeah.
Do we care that Apple's like Spotify has such a huge chunk of the market? Is like, oh, Apple, like they were like, oh, Apple went from 15% to 17%. It's like, but Spotify says 35%. So that's I'm not really impressed by
Yeah.
that. But do you think this is an
The
indication of the
reason,
times or anything?
I mean, honestly, the reason why people have, or people look at this stuff from a metric standpoint, because you're talking about Apple, if I remember correctly, is pretty much the highest valued company in the world at this point. But yes, it hit like $3 trillion just recently,
So
something like that.
five.
You know what I'm saying? Well, 5 trillion. Yeah, I undersold it, Lord.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But in
Yeah.
a situation like that, you figure Apple's has been out longer than Spotify with regards to the digital game, in regards to sales of music or digital access of music. The trick is that Spotify has over Apple Music is that one, Apple is spread to so many different avenues. You know what I'm saying? Spotify specifically focuses on their platform for music. So they're quickly dropping tools that Apple isn't. And what they've done is they've successfully captured the creative because of all the backend tools they have.
I
I can tell
can
you one
tell
of the
you off the rip, and I've said this way back when we had this
mm,
conversation with a certain someone when we were back in Houston. Spotify wins because of one reason: you don't need hardware.
mm-hmm.
Now, Apple Music, I believe they had at one point where you can have it's Apple. It was iTunes Apple Music without having an iPhone, or am I mistaken?
No, they have Apple Music where you can put it on Android, but it's not the same experience as it is on an
Exactly.
iPhone comparatively to Spotify.
Spotify, well, like that's the reason why Pandora is still in the game, Tencent is still in the game, Deezer is still in the game. I don't,
I'll be honest with you. Tencent ain't going nowhere. Tencent
No.
runs the Eastern marketplace.
Right. This not going to because you don't need hardware. Apple wins in the hardware department, but it's kind of the same. It's kind of like the whole um, Uber business model. I don't need a car. I just need an app. And then, if I have a car, like, if I want to be a driver, I just need the app.
Mm.
I don't have to have like this type of car and this, that, and the third. So, I mean, I really didn't have anything to say about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed with the growth. I mean, congratulations. That's wonderful. But I honestly, I was like, that's cool.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. In that situation, Spotify does another thing right. They've captured the creative market. The reason being is like just as simple as saying, "Hey, here's a pre-save function." I've noticed from last year to this year, well, actually from 2020 to this year, there's been a steady decline in people using smart URLs. Now, if you remember smart URLs being like, "Hey, here's all my available links to my project."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now it's just becoming a behavior of people just saying, "Yo, here's the Spotify pre-save," because it's so easy to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas when you originally had pre-save with Apple, when they finally came out with the feature, it was cumbersome. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to utilize this process, which is ridiculous to get to? Or am I going to use this where when I upload the record, all I got to do is press a button and here's my web link to say save my record? I'm just going to use this link because I'm a super. Most of these artists are not. How do you say super techy in those instances? Smart individuals, smart individuals. I don't. People
We
think I'm
gotta
taking
stop.
away.
Okay. Okay. Let me be the first to say this because this has been going on for the past 3 years. It's nothing you're doing. It's not just. I'm not just calling you out. I'm calling myself out, and I'm calling the rest of us out that deal with the business of music. We have to. We have to stop throwing the fact that we're smarter than the artist in the artist's face. Or rather, we have to stop coming off like we're so much smarter than the artist and then throwing it in their face. I know what you meant, but I I'm going to start checking myself and making sure like, hey, it's okay. Yes, information is out there, sure, but we may need to chill because I didn't. If you look at it, the first like 4 or 5 episodes of this, I was renting. I was going into artists like it was ungodly sometimes. So just want to say in 2022, I'm going to try to do my best in assisting and not leaning in on artists not knowing their stuff.
I'm with you on that, and I'll readjust that statement with regards to it. If you consider any particular individual, when you look at something, we're by default we're going to want to use something that makes more sense. We're not going to want to do something that's convoluted or overly complicated. That's going to cause frustration.
Right.
We want to utilize the most easily adoptable system that we can because at the end of the day, it's about achieving the goal as quick and as suitable as possible.
Right.
So them utilizing that Spotify pre-save opportunity as opposed to the way Apple had it just seemed one financially feasible. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say financially, it's not a matter of putting in money, it's a matter of spending a secondary currency called time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you don't have to spend all this time doing this. You just hit a button and here you go. You know what I'm saying? So by default, people are going to run with that marketplace. And once they run with that marketplace, it's going to be hard to tell them, hey, you need to switch over here. So from there, it's just a matter of finding the fans who utilize this platform. And in that same instance, once you find them, you're in good shape. They don't want to switch. They're happy where they are. You just keep finding more and more and more along that conversation. And that's how they easily eat up the market share.
That's it. The Theo, he ended. Like I said, I didn't have anything else to talk about in regards to that. I was like, oh, that's wonderful. What else? Did you have anything else you want to touch base on, bro? Um, anything positive? See, Whack One just says Bobby Schmurder. No, I'm not getting into that. That's not this platform. Uh, I mean, it's so easy to comment on stuff, but I do want to make sure I always give some sort of like, you know,
I'll add one thing based on what you were saying about making sure we assist as much as possible.
Yeah.
In 2022, man, I'm telling everybody, yo, pick up a book. You know what I'm saying? Do yourself a favor because, be perfectly honest, we don't know when this COVID situation is going to end. So the best thing you can do is elevate your mind. So when this circumstance does end, you come out better than what you went in.
Oh,
For artists, I say,
I will say I have no problem saying like your fam. If your hustle didn't improve, your business didn't. Because here's the thing: for the first 6 months, where are you going? Like for real, like for the first 6 months of this pandemic, where were you going? You weren't going anywhere. Like I
man,
know another producer, he got stuck in Trinidad for 18 months. Where are you going? There's nowhere to go. So if you still didn't take the time to learn the business, okay. See, I'm starting already. Go ahead, Theo. See, I'm
no,
seven
but
chill.
there is a book I tell everybody, man. It's all you need to know about music business. It's by Donald Passman. He's a lawyer. He has plenty of volumes that you can read through. But I highly, highly recommend reading his books. They're pretty much going to give you the base principle of what you're going to get in a general 4 year education. Now, that's not saying that he's going to cover every little detail that you're going to get in a 4 year education, but trust me when I say, when you read that book, you're going to feel like you went through 4 years of school because he's going to break it down in every possible direction that you would generally think of. He hits a lot of bases that, in a lot of instances, just coming into the industry, we don't think about because the trick about hip hop is, as they say, the game is to be sold, not told. We
Right.
come in under the mentality of, yo, either you gonna know what you know or you just gonna get took. You know what I'm saying? So he's trying to protect individuals from getting took in the industry. He's really giving a lot of information at a very, very, very low price. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I read the book, I looked at it, my jaw dropped. I'm like, I can't believe he's giving this much information for $10.
Well,
I'm like,
the issue. So Hans, you say you're not gonna do it. Okay, this be the last episode. My contention, what gives me heart palpitations, what pisses me off, what really gets my blood going, is that if I had this information when I was an artist, I wouldn't. I don't think I would have pivoted to be a music producer. It's like, oh, I'm right there because I already had the email list, already had merchandise. I had it to the point where I had fans making T-shirts for me to go travel with, and it's just like, fam, if I knew just a little bit more, I probably would have still been a rap artist. But that's not what I want to do, and I'm much happier with what I'm doing now. However,
mm,
I think because we came from an environment of lack, and it's like there's this abundance of information out there. It's like, yo, fam, I had another artist hit me up. He was like, yo, you do management, and I wanted to like choke him through the phone. It's like, fam, do you understand? Like, do you? I posted a video, and the thing is, like, the video from Daniels. I think I posted it 2 weeks ago. It's just like, anytime you ask someone to be your manager, you're asking them to put their life on hold to help you with yours.
mm,
I don't think people understand what a manager does. Like, a manager is
right.
invested. There's very, 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 very few managers that are married. There's a reason why. I think Sasha Stone, Rick Barker doesn't count because he quit on Taylor Swift because his wife told him, "You go on tour again. I don't care how much money you making.
It's a
You go
done.
to
Right.
I'm divorced. You coming back divorced." See Sasha Stone. Who else do we know is married as a manager? I think that's
It's
it.
a far in between. But see, but here I'll tell you the reason why. The reason why we as a community don't necessarily, how do you say, understand that point by default. We're coming from a work culture. We're coming from a mindset of your manager literally micromanages, but goes home at the end of the night. You come, you see them for a set amount of hours. They tell you what you need to get done, and then they keep it moving. You might catch an email after work, et cetera, et cetera, but it's not the same complexity of what an artist manager is going to put behind you with regards to finances, time. Like your manager at McDonald's or your manager at whatever company you work at does not sit there and say, yeah, I'm about to put $2,000 on your career. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to put $20,000 on your record. Like that's not a thing. What they say is, I will sign your check. That's going to come from HR after I submit these hours. The company will definitely get you taken care of. I'm just the middleman verifying you doing your job.
Right.
So we come from that culture. So they don't understand. We don't understand. The community does not always understand coming into the conversation. One, that there's multiple managers that you can hire, let alone what those managers are supposed to do for you, do behind you, etc. But again, that comes down to education because that's just like being in the NFL or being in the NBA, and you in college, and all of a sudden you start hearing this word called agent floating around more and more, and
Right.
it's like, yo, you talking about going to the league? You need a sports agent, or you decide, hey, I'm gonna be an actor, and it's like, yeah, you got a talent agent, but then you also have a manager.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, wait a minute, I got two different people doing similar jobs, yet different jobs. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, I'm paying both of these individuals. Wait a minute, they're my manager, but I'm the boss.
Google it.
You know what I'm saying? Those are the situations that we don't understand. It's like when we say this is our manager, we think that they're going to manage
Google
you, when in
it.
reality, they manage that expectations. You're still the boss.
Google it. That's my answer. Quick slide into my DMs asking me to be your manager. I would like that for 20. I would like in 2022 for that to stop because it's dumb. The end. Okay. All right, man. I don't have anything else to touch base on. This was fun. This was fun.
Most definitely.
I did not expect you to drop as many bars as you did. I was ready to come in here and argue with you or some stuff, but apparently I can't. So I gotta find somebody else. But yeah, that's pretty much it, bro. Any last stuff you want to say before we dip?
Nah, man, I'd say, you know what I'm saying, just keep it 100 in 2022, man. People disappearing left to right behind this music. So keep it all the way 100 and God bless.
I'm just not realizing you had the camera too low.
Oh, man.
You bugging out. All right, y'all. Well, that is it. That is a wrap. Hope you got something from it. Make